Now we've made it up to opening statement. At this point, you've gone through the jury selection process where a Venire panel, we'll say on average 48 people come in and some questions will be asked by the judge. One of the questions will be, is there anyone here who would not be a fair juror just based upon knowing what the charge is? Now, in certain parts of the state, your more conservative parts of the state, from a religious perspective, I'll never forget, I picked a DUI jury one time, and when the judge asked that question and made it specific to alcohol, is there anyone here who would have trouble sitting on this case just knowing what the charge is and that alcohol is involved? And 45 hands went up in the air. I mean, I moved to strike the panel. The judge denied it. That didn't go very well. So you have to know your locality, and that's critical. But the judge is always going to start by asking some questions. Then the prosecutor will ask some questions. And then the defense lawyer can ask some questions. And then you or your loved one will go with the attorneys up to where the judge is sitting at the bench. And the judge will turn off the microphone, and there's a recent trend in Florida where, in addition to turning off the microphone, they turn on the most annoying sounding static in the history of Earth. Think about how your television sounds if you have it turned on, but it's not hooked up to cable, Netflix, or whatever, and you hear that scratching sound. Yeah, it's something like that. Well, that's to prevent the Venire panel from hearing the discussion up at the bench. And what the lawyers are doing is they're first going through what are known as strikes without cause. That means you can strike a juror for any reason unless they're a member of a protected class. For example, if you strike people because they are of a particular race or gender, those are protected classes, and the other party, if that's challenged, has to give a gender or race neutral reason for that strike, even though it's a strike without cause. Generally, that goes pretty smoothly, and the client is always brought to the bench so that you can be involved in the process. Next, the lawyers and the judge, with the client present, will go through what are known as strikes for cause. Now, some judges do the reverse of this, but most do strikes without cause and then strikes for cause. What's a strike for cause? A strike for cause is juror number 27. They're not jurors at this point, but for some reason we always use that language. Juror number 27 said such and such in response to this question, therefore I move to strike for cause. And the judge may say, to the other side, do you agree or not? The other side agrees, no problem. If they don't agree, then the judge makes a ruling. And sometimes the judge will then call that particular Venire panel up to the bench so that the judge can ask some questions, and then both sets of lawyers can ask some questions. And then that Venire panel member will go back and sit in the room, and the lawyers will haggle with the judge, and the judge will make a ruling. And once 6 jurors, 12 in a capital case, have been selected, next you will select alternates. Now, I've had so many trials that I've had more than one end up being decided by a 5-person jury. What are the odds of a holdout juror on a 5-person jury compared to 12 or even 6? Not very good. But what happened was we selected one alternate, and sure enough, 2 people couldn't serve through to completion. So what I normally recommend and what I teach is that lawyers should ask for 2 alternates. Yes, there's a little bit more expense to the county, I understand that, but it's also a good safe practice to make sure that you don't have to make that decision. Do we do the trial all over again, or do we go forward with a 5-person jury? Because I've been in that position more than once, and that shouldn't happen, so that's why I started asking for 2, and it's always been granted. You'll need to speak to your legal team about this. But that's the basics of jury selection. Now, in the next video, we're going to discuss what happens after jury selection and after opening statements.